What would you do if every attempt to escape slavery meant risking a fate worse than death? In ancient Rome, enslaved women faced unimaginable horrors when they tried to break free. Some were publicly whipped, others branded like cattle, but the worst punishments were reserved for those who dared to run. This is the untold story of their defiance and what happened to those who refused to accept their chains. Imagine the moment an enslaved woman decided to run, knowing capture meant torture. The law was clear. Runaways faced beatings, branding, or worse. But for women, the penalties carried additional horrors. Their bodies became sites of public spectacle, marked not just by physical scars, but by sexualized violence designed to break their will. Fugitive notices tell part of the story. They didn't just describe women by their skills or origins. They listed scars as identifying features, noting old brands from previous punishments. One record mentions a woman dragged through the forum by her hair, her screams meant to echo in the ears of other enslaved people. The message was unmistakable. Defiance would be met with humiliation before pain. Legal texts gave masters near total power. A recaptured slave could be killed without trial, their death serving as a lesson. Some women chose suicide rather than face the consequences of being caught. They swallowed poison, threw themselves from heights, or found other desperate means to control their own fate. The act of running wasn't mere defiance, it was a calculation. Escape offered a sliver of hope, but failure meant suffering beyond imagination. Yet even in these moments of despair, small acts of resistance emerged. A woman might slow her steps during a public beating, refusing to give her tormentors the satisfaction of seeing her hurry to her own punishment. Another might meet her executioner's gaze without flinching. These weren't grand gestures, but they echoed in the silence of a system built to erase all traces of their humanity. Physical punishment served as the first layer of control, but it wasn't the only one. The mechanisms of terror ran deeper, weaving into the fabric of daily life. Tools of restraint went beyond chains. Some devices were designed to speak for those forced to wear them. Some slave collars didn't just restrain. They literally spoke for their wearers. Roman collars survived the centuries with their cruel messages intact. Phrases like, "Return me, I am a runaway," were hammered into iron rings meant to encircle necks. But for women, these inscriptions carried an added dimension of horror, often listing services rendered alongside warnings against escape. A collar found in Ostia detailed its wearer's duties in graphic sexual terms, turning what should have been private degradation into permanent public display. Archaeologists note these weren't mass-produced restraints. Each collar appears custom-made for its wearer, suggesting masters carefully chose phrases that would inflict maximum psychological damage. The metal pressed against skin, while the words echoed in public spaces, ensuring no one could look away. How many women bore these silent screams around their necks? The collars transform our understanding of Roman slavery, not merely physical confinement, but an assault on identity itself. The inscriptions served a dual purpose. Beyond the immediate humiliation, they functioned as self-referential property tags. If an enslaved woman somehow slipped away, her body now carried irrefutable proof of ownership. Even temporary freedom came at the cost of constant visibility, a walking confession every time she turned her head. Some collars included reward offers, ensuring all who read them became potential captors. Yet the very nature of these devices reveals their weakness. Why engrave ownership claims unless resistance was frequent? Why craft personalized humiliations unless masters feared being forgotten? The collars prove how desperately Rome needed such elaborate measures to maintain control. In rare cases, the metal itself tells another story. One collar shows evidence of repeated tampering, scratches where someone might have tried to pry it open, tiny stress fractures from constant twisting. These marks suggest some women did more than wear their chains. They tested them, probing for weak points between the letters spelling out their subjugation. What does it mean when your body becomes a speaking instrument, but the words aren't yours? The collars forced women to perform their own oppression with every breath. Yet they also document defiance by sheer existence, proving some continued running despite the cost. Staring at them today, you realize these weren't just restraints. They were battlefields. Beneath Rome's streets, fugitives created a shadow city of survival. The Cloaca Maxima sewer system offered shelter, its vast tunnels winding unseen beneath grand villas and temples. But this refuge came at a price. The stench of waste mingled with damp stone, the air thick with disease. Rats scurried past hands gripping makeshift lanterns, their dim light revealing faces gaunt from hunger. Enslaved women who vanished into these depths knew the tunnels might kill them before their captors could. Yet they went anyway. Accounts describe groups forming in the darkness. Women protected each other's children, sharing scraps of moldy bread or stolen fruit. They devised signals, a particular knock, certain graffiti markings, to identify safe passages. Near one sewer entrance, a crude sketch survives. It shows a woman's face, her mouth open as if speaking, with the word "free" carved beneath it. This wasn't idle defiance. It was a declaration to those who followed. Someone had passed this way and chosen hope. Forensic studies of sewer remains reveal another layer of resistance. Some skeletons show teeth deliberately filed down, a known practice among runaway slaves attempting to alter their appearance. These weren't random mutilations. Each groove represented careful calculation, the pain of modification preferable to recognition. Imagine the moment, a mother using a stolen tool to reshape her child's features by torchlight, silencing whimpers with promises of safety. The tunnels weren't empty crypts. They thrived with stolen life. Women wove mats from trash for sleeping, distilled sewer water into something drinkable, even birthed babies in the flickering dark. Their presence left traces: soot from fires in hidden alcoves, broken needles from mending stolen clothes. When authorities discovered these networks, the reprisals were brutal. Soldiers poured in with torches, their boots splashing through water streaked red. Yet the sewers tell us something crucial. Even in utter deprivation, community persisted. The underground became a proving ground for collective resistance. If one woman fell, another took her place. If a passage collapsed, new routes were mapped. This wasn't mere survival. It was the slow unraveling of slavery's power, one whispered warning at a time. Above ground, Rome believed itself unchallenged. Below, the desperate proved otherwise. But the city's vengeance waited for those who surfaced, and the price of open defiance was higher still. Some women turned their executions into acts of defiance. Crucifixion was Rome's ultimate punishment, but enslaved women often endured additional humiliations first. They were paraded through streets with placards listing invented crimes, stole her own body, or denied her master's rights. The procession wasn't just about punishment. It was theater, designed to reinforce the idea that resistance always ended the same way. Seneca recorded one woman's response during her pre-execution scourging. As the whip struck, she laughed, calling each lash practice for freedom. This wasn't madness. It was calculation, turning the spectacle back against its makers. Guards could break bones, but not every spirit. Temple reliefs confirm what written accounts suggest. Carved depictions of bound female captives show postures male prisoners rarely display. Heads raised, shoulders squared despite ropes. Why preserve these moments? The artists may have meant to showcase Roman dominance, but the images betray something else. A woman in one relief stares directly at her captor despite the noose around her neck. Another's hands are tied behind her back, yet her chin tilts upward like someone inhaling fresh air. These weren't generic prisoners, they were portraits of refusal. Executions followed predictable scripts, but women rewrote their final lines. Some spat at spectators, others sang fragments of lullabies, reclaiming voices the auction block had tried to silence. The most dangerous prisoners had their tongues cut beforehand, not because they might incite rebellion, but because they could still shape memory. A dying woman's gaze could unsettle a crowd more effectively than any speech. Archaeologists note strange details in female slave burial sites near execution grounds. Some skeletons clasp fistfuls of dirt, as if grabbing one last piece of the world. Others show teeth marks on bound wrists, evidence of chewing through ropes even at the end. These weren't random acts. They were final messages. Ownership could be asserted up until death, but never fully completed. The empire kept meticulous records of executions, yet some entries simply read, "unbroken." No confession, no pleas, just that single word marking failure. In Rome's eyes, the ultimate crime wasn't running away. It was proving some things couldn't be taken. Their legacy lingers not in grand monuments, but in quiet disruptions, the defiance of a turned head, the stubborn set of a jaw. These women left no manifestos, yet their resistance rewrote the rules. The system demanded broken bodies. They offered unbroken stares instead. These women's stories rewrite the narrative of passive victimhood. Their resistance, whether through escape, defiance, or quiet persistence, proves captivity never fully erased their agency. Rome designed systems to break them, yet their acts reveal cracks in the empire's control. Which untold histories should we uncover next? Comment below with voices you want brought to light. The past holds countless forgotten struggles waiting to be heard. Stay tuned for more deep dives into erased voices of the ancient world. The archive still whispers with stories like these. If we learn how to listen, press the notification bell to catch them all.